Nobody gets rich without facing one harsh truth about money. And until you do, no amount of hard work will save you. It's not about effort. It's not about luck. And it's definitely not about cutting lattes or budgeting harder. The game is rigged. The rules are ruthless. But once you finally see how it works, everything changes. Let's begin with the lie that's been quietly keeping you broke. The lie you were sold. You were told the formula was simple. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, work hard, save what you can, and everything will be fine. That's the script, the same one handed to your parents, the same one they handed to you. But look around. Does it actually work? Because if it did, most people wouldn't be drowning in debt. They wouldn't be scared to check their bank account. They wouldn't be working for 40 years just to retire on less than they need. And yet they keep following the script. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because it sounds responsible. Because nobody wants to believe they've been lied to. But here's the truth. That formula was never designed to make you rich. It was designed to keep you in line, to reward obedience, to train you to follow orders, not question systems. It teaches you how to survive, not how to build wealth. And the longer you follow it, the more stuck you become. You work harder, but you don't move. You save more, but everything still feels tight. You do everything right and still feel like you're behind. That's the trap. The lie isn't just wrong, it's expensive. And every year you believe it, you pay the price in freedom, time, and potential. But it gets worse, because the longer you trust that script, the less you question the game you're actually in. And the people who stay poor, they don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they never stop and ask what the wealthy already know. And once you ask that question, once you look beyond the lie, you'll find the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Let's talk about it. The harsh truth, money doesn't reward effort. You've been told that if you work hard, you'll be rewarded. That's showing up early, staying late, putting in the hours, that's what builds success. It sounds noble, it feels fair, and for a while, you believed it. You believed that the harder you pushed, the further you'd go. That time and sweat would eventually translate into freedom. But in the real world, it doesn't hold up. Because if effort alone created wealth, construction workers would be billionaires. Nurses would be millionaires. Factory workers would retire at 40. Janitors, cleaners, delivery drivers, some of the hardest working people on earth living paycheck to paycheck, tired, underpaid, invisible. Meanwhile, someone writes a few lines of code or sells the right product once and watches money pour in every single day. They're not working longer hours, they're not putting in more effort, but their impact scales, their value multiplies, and that's what money follows. The harsh truth: money doesn't reward effort, it rewards value. It flows to the people who solve painful problems, not the ones who sweat the most. You can spend your entire life being the hardest worker in the room and still be broke, because effort without direction is just motion. It's hamster wheel, progress. It keeps you tired, but doesn't take you anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean hard work is useless. It's not. In fact, it's necessary, especially in the beginning. Effort builds discipline. It builds reputation. It gets you in the door, but it's not the secret to wealth. Hard work is the foundation, not the engine. If you never move beyond it, you stay stuck in the grind. You become the dependable one, the loyal one, the busy one, but not the free one. And here's where it really stings. The people who understand this truth, they don't work harder, they work smarter, earlier, and in the right direction. They build systems, they buy leverage, they position themselves to get paid for results, not time. They stop chasing more hours and start multiplying their impact. They make money while they sleep, not because they're lucky, but because they're building machines that work harder than they ever could. They're not exhausted, they're strategic. And once you understand that once it clicks, you stop trying to out-hustle the system. You stop thinking that grinding 12 hours a day will somehow unlock freedom. You start asking better questions. You start building something that moves you forward, even when you're not looking. But to do that, you have to see money for what it really is. Not a reward, not a pat on the back for trying hard, not a reflection of your worth or how good of a person you are. Money is a system, a game, one with rules, strategies, and players who already know how it works. And whether you realize it or not, you're already in it. Wealth is a game, and you're not even playing. Here's what most people never realize. Money isn't just earned, it's played. It's not some holy reward for hard work. It's not something you stumble into because you're a good person. Money is a game, and just like any game, there are players and there are pieces. You've been led to believe that money is about fairness, that if you're loyal, respectful, consistent, and put your head down, you'll eventually get what you deserve. But look around. Is that what you see? People who give everything to their jobs still stressing over rent. People who followed the rules still worried about retirement. People who do the right thing still feel stuck. Meanwhile, others people who seem to bend the rules, think differently, build quietly, somehow rise faster. That's not a coincidence. That's the game working exactly as it's designed. Because here's the truth. The people who get rich don't wait for permission. They don't wait for someone to hand them a ladder. They build one. They study how money flows, where value accumulates, what compounds, what scales. They know how to use leverage, how to own assets, how to multiply their time, and most importantly, they know that money doesn't care how hard you work. It only follows systems. And if you don't even know that's the game, you're not playing it. You're stuck in someone else's system, a system where your value is capped, where your time is traded for fixed income, where you feel exhausted, but somehow still behind. And the worst part, the game rewards your silence. It wants you busy, distracted, performing, entertained, just busy enough to feel productive, just paid enough to stay quiet, just tired enough to never ask what's really going on. So you keep grinding, keep showing up, keep checking off boxes, while the real players, they're stacking equity, building tools, scaling ideas, buying back their time. The harsh truth is this: the people you think are lucky are often just playing a better game. They didn't get rich by accident, they saw the board, they learned the rules, and they moved with intention. But even that knowledge isn't enough if your mindset is still locked in fear. Because knowing it's a game is one thing, having the courage to play it like a builder, that's something else entirely. And that's where most people stay stuck, not because they're incapable, but because their brain is still wired for survival. Let's talk about why that mindset, survival thinking, keeps you poor. You probably don't even realize it, but your entire relationship with money might still be rooted in survival. And survival sounds smart, right? Be careful, play it safe, don't take risks. Stay humble, stay small, stay protected. That's what you were taught. That's what felt responsible. That's what made people proud of you. But survival thinking is exactly what keeps most people poor. It sounds like wisdom, but it's really fear with a good PR team. When you're in survival mode, everything in your mind contracts. Your vision shrinks. You don't think about possibilities, you think about bills. You don't think about growing, you think about avoiding disaster. You stop asking, what's possible, and start asking, what if I lose what little I have? You stop dreaming, you stop experimenting, you stop creating, you just manage, scramble, defend. Every decision becomes about protection, not progress, about staying safe, not stepping forward. You're not chasing opportunity, you're dodging risk. And the people who live their whole life like that, they don't fail loudly, they fail quietly, slowly, year after year, making safe decisions that keep them exactly where they are. You play not to lose, and in the process, you guarantee you never win. And if you've ever hesitated before investing in yourself, if you've ever talked yourself out of something that felt a little too big, a little too uncomfortable, even though deep down you knew it was right, that wasn't logic, that was survival, that was the internal alarm that says stay where it's safe, even if safe is killing your momentum. That little voice that says, what if this doesn't work? What if you waste your money? What if people judge you? What if you fail? That's survival conditioning. It's not your fault. It was passed down to you from parents who lived through scarcity, from schools that punish mistakes, from bosses who taught you to stay in your lane. And the worst part, the system rewards it. It makes you believe that being cautious is the same thing as being smart, that being passive is being responsible, that just because you're not going backwards, you must be moving forward. But here's the reality: saving pennies while ignoring opportunity is still losing. It's just slower, it's more polite, more acceptable, but it's still decline, quiet decline. The wealthy don't think like that. They don't cling to what they have, they multiply it. They think in terms of upside. They run scenarios, they take risks, not reckless ones, calculated ones. And if they fail, they rebuild. Because they've trained their mind to create, not to cling. And when your brain is locked in survival mode, you never even get to that level. You're too busy guarding scraps to realize there's a feast being served two doors down. You don't build leverage. You don't create systems. You don't ask bigger questions. You stay small and you call it safe. But that mindset, more than your income, more than your education, more than your intelligence, is what separates the free from the stuck. You can't create wealth with a mind that's allergic to loss. You create wealth with a mind trained to build through pressure, to move through uncertainty, to act with vision. Because freedom doesn't come from perfect safety, it comes from calculated movement. And here's where it all flips. The antidote to survival is ownership, not just of stocks or businesses, but ownership of your time, your decisions, your skill sets, your direction, your identity. You don't escape survival mode by earning more. You escape it by taking full responsibility for what you build and who you become. The power of ownership. Here's the brutal truth. Nobody builds real wealth without ownership. And I'm not talking about owning a car or a house. I'm talking about owning value that keeps working even when you don't. Most people are trained to earn, not to own. You earn a salary, you earn overtime, you earn praise for being dependable. But that's all temporary. The moment you stop showing up, it all disappears. You've built nothing that lasts, nothing that works without you. That's not wealth. That's a treadmill. Ownership is different. Ownership pays you after you stop working. It compounds while you sleep. It grows without your permission. It's the one shift that turns effort into freedom. But here's the catch. The system never taught you to think this way. It taught you how to be valuable to someone else's machine, not how to build your own. You were taught to get a job, not equity, to chase promotions, not profits, to build resumes, not assets. And because of that, you probably spent years helping other people get rich while thinking you were doing well. You weren't building your own ladder. You were climbing someone else's. And it never ends. But the people who break free, they do one thing differently. They stop trading time and start buying control. They own the product, they own the content, they own the system that others depend on. And that's why money flows to them, not because they're smarter or faster or more talented, but because they own the value that can't be unplugged. You don't need to own a billion-dollar company. You don't need to build the next Facebook. You just need to own something real, something that solves a problem, something that pays you without clocking in. It could be a product, a platform, a business, a digital asset, even a personal brand, but it must be yours because until you own it, you're still borrowing your future from someone else's decisions. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think ownership is a reward for success. It's not. It's the foundation of success. The moment you stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like an owner is the moment you start building wealth that doesn't fade. But ownership alone won't carry you, not without the fuel that makes it scale. Now let's talk about that fuel leverage. Leverage, the silent multiplier. If ownership is the foundation of wealth, leverage is the engine that makes it unstoppable. Without leverage, even ownership can feel like another job. You'll work hard, maybe even harder than before, and yet your growth will still crawl. But when you learn to use leverage, that's when things start to compound. Leverage is about doing more with less. It's about creating something that works harder than you do. It's not about grinding more hours. It's about multiplying the impact of every hour you have. And here's the thing most people miss. Leverage is everywhere, but almost no one uses it. Think about it. Most people wake up and trade their time one for one, an hour for a paycheck, a day for a salary, and when they want to make more money, they try to trade even more hours. That's not leverage. That's a trap. The wealthy don't trade time like that. They build things that keep moving when they're asleep. A piece of code that serves a million people. A video that earns money every time someone watches. An investment that grows while they do nothing. That's leverage using tools, systems, and ideas that scale your effort beyond your physical limits. And here's the truth. You don't need to be a tech genius or a millionaire to use leverage. You already have access to the same tools. Technology, automation, media, capital. These are forms of leverage that anyone can use. You just need to stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a builder. The harsh reality, if you're not using leverage, you're being leveraged. Someone else is profiting from your time, your attention, your energy, while you think you're playing it safe. That's how the game keeps you small. Leverage doesn't just make you rich faster, it frees your mind. It gives you space to think, to create, to focus on what truly matters. Without it, you'll always be stuck in busy work no matter how hard you try. But even when people discover leverage, many still fail to use it. Why? Because they're carrying the wrong mindset, the same outdated beliefs that were programmed into them from the start. And that brings us to the next harsh truth. The system was never built to teach you any of this. Why they don't teach you this, if everything you've heard so far feels like a revelation, then the next question is obvious. Why weren't you taught this sooner? Why didn't school teach you about ownership? Why wasn't leverage explained next to multiplication tables? Why didn't anyone walk you through how money actually moves, where it flows, why it grows, and who controls it? It's not because the information doesn't exist. It's because the system you were raised in wasn't designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you compliant, useful, predictable. You weren't educated to create, you were trained to follow. You see it now, don't you? The entire structure, from the first time you were told to sit still and color inside the lines, was meant to produce obedience. Not insight, not confidence, not wealth. You were taught how to memorize, not how to multiply. You were rewarded for following instructions, not questioning assumptions. The goal was never to make you financially free. It was to make you financially dependent. On jobs, on credit, on systems, on someone else calling the shots. And the craziest part, you did everything right. You stayed out of trouble. You worked hard. You got the grades. You got the degree. You even got the job. And yet here you are still trying to figure out why your life doesn't look like the freedom you were promised. because what you were really given wasn't an education. It was a script, one that said, get a good job, stay safe, don't rock the boat, and maybe, just maybe, you'll retire in peace. That's not a plan. That's a trap. Meanwhile, the wealthy were learning something very different. They were being shown how assets work, how taxes work, how capital moves. They were taught how to think in terms of systems, not schedules. They were encouraged to take calculated risks, while you were warned to stay away from anything that might jeopardize your future. You were told to fear failure. They were taught to use it. And it's not because they're better than you. It's because they were exposed to a different set of tools that were deliberately kept out of reach for the average person. Not hidden, just never offered. Buried beneath distractions, smothered by noise. Because when people stay uninformed, they stay under control. If you knew how wealth really works, would you still settle for 40 years of labor in exchange for 2 weeks of vacation? If you understood leverage and ownership, would you still trade your time for survival? No, you wouldn't. And they know that, so they feed you enough to keep you moving, but not enough to wake you up. They dangle small rewards, promotions, praise, perks, just enough to keep you from asking bigger questions. Questions like, why don't I own any of what I'm building? Or why am I working harder but not getting ahead? But now you're asking, and that makes you dangerous, because once you start pulling on that thread, the whole thing unravels. Now you know the truth, and the truth creates responsibility. But don't get comfortable, because the second you start waking up, the distractions get louder, the noise intensifies, the pressure to go back to sleep grows stronger. And if you're not careful, you'll trade clarity for comfort and fall right back into the trap, the distraction. Trap distraction isn't harmless, it's strategic. It's not just noise, it's a weapon, and it's aimed right at you. The moment you start questioning the script, the world gives you something else to focus on. Another headline, another show, another app, another dopamine hit that feels urgent but costs you clarity. And that's the point, because if you're distracted, you're not building. If you're distracted, you're not thinking deeply. You're not asking hard questions. You're not chasing ownership or leverage or truth. You're chasing likes, notifications, validation. Distraction is how the system keeps you in check without you even noticing. They don't need to chain you to a cubicle anymore. They just need you swiping your thumb 100-200 times a day. They just need your attention fractured across so many meaningless things that you never give enough focus to anything that matters. You start your day with good intentions, but your mind is already hijacked. First, it's email, then a news alert, then a scroll, a reel, a ping, a message. You feel busy, but you're not moving. You're reacting to everything and creating nothing. And what's even worse, you think it's your fault. You blame your lack of willpower. You call yourself lazy, unfocused, undisciplined. But it's not you, it's the environment. You're living in a machine designed to exploit your brains. Weakest points, and then sell you back your attention, one ad at a time. That's the trap. And while you're stuck in it, someone else is quietly getting rich off your time, your clicks, your scrolls. They're building platforms. You're refreshing them. They're collecting data. You're giving it away. They're owning the tools. You're being used by them. It's not that you don't have time. It's that your time is being stolen in microscopic pieces, and you don't even notice until months, years have passed. But here's what the system can't take from you: your ability to choose what you focus on, your ability to reclaim your time, to protect your mornings, to shut off the noise and create something real, even if it's just for 1 hour a day. Because focus is the rarest currency in the world right now. And if you can master it, you become unstoppable. But first, you have to make a decision, the kind most people avoid their whole life. You've heard the truth, you've seen the game. Now it comes down to one question: will you accept it or keep paying for the lie? Will you accept the truth or keep paying for the lie? You've made it this far, which means deep down, you already knew something was wrong. You felt it every time you worked a full week and still had more month than money. Every time you looked at your paycheck and thought, that's it. Every time you cut back, played it safe, followed the rules, and still felt stuck. You've seen people who work half as hard, who don't have your experience, your education, your grit, somehow move faster, pull ahead, rise while you're still figuring out how to catch up. And it never made sense. It felt unfair. It felt broken. But now you know, it was never about fairness. It was never about effort. It was always about understanding the truth and learning how to use it. And now that you've heard it, you have a choice. You can keep scrolling, keep hoping, keep working harder in a system that was never designed to reward you. You can keep grinding your time into dust, convincing yourself that maybe next year or the next promotion or the next raise, everything will magically fall into place. Or you can choose the truth. You can finally admit what most people will spend their entire lives avoiding: that wealth doesn't come from effort alone. That money doesn't care how early you wake up, how many boxes you check, or how many hours you put in. That nobody gets rich by accident. They get rich because they studied the system, broke away from it, and built something of their own. And no, that doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow. It doesn't mean throwing everything away and taking reckless risks. It means means shifting slowly, quietly, intentionally. It means learning how to think like a builder instead of a laborer. It means questioning what you've always assumed was just how it works. It means choosing ownership over wages, leverage over labor, clarity over chaos. It means asking better questions, studying different models, building things that last. It means being okay with discomfort because that's the cost of breaking free. Most importantly, it means protecting your time like your future depends on it, because it absolutely does. The hours you waste can never be refunded. The years you spend waiting for permission are years you could have spent building freedom. And every time you trade your time for survival, you move one step further from wealth. This is the moment most people turn back. They hear the truth, nod their heads, feel the spark, and then do nothing. They go back to the same habits, the same noise, the same cycle of waiting for someone else to change things for them. But you're still here, listening, thinking, feeling that pull in your chest that says, I'm done living like this. And that means something. It means you're not like most people, because now you know what they don't. Now you've seen what they avoid. Now you understand what they never will. Nobody gets rich without understanding this harsh truth about money, and now you do.